It is unusual for punitive damages to be awarded in restrictive covenant cases. That's because a restrictive covenant is typically a contract between the employer and the employee. In many cases, in most jurisdictions, punitive damages are not awarded in breach of contract cases. Therefore, when a restrictive covenant case does not include separate tort claims, it's often that punitive damages are not recoverable. Punitive damages were awarded in this case for what I think were several reasons. In this case, the court did sustain tort claims against the defendants, and as I've noted, punitive damages are recoverable in tort actions, but typically not in contract cases. Secondly, the conduct in this case was particularly egregious. These defendants took with them some sensitive confidential information from their former employer and used it willfully. In fact, all of their business in their first year with the new employer was derived from their old employer. Next, there was an email that had been discovered in this case, which I'll call a smoking gun. In it, one of the employees said to the other, "Why compete when you can just have the business?" And that, I think, is a tacit admission that they were literally stealing this business from their old employer. And lastly, I think the court was annoyed with these particular defendants for having ignored his discovery rulings and orders in the case, and in fact, having violated a preliminary injunction order that the court put in place. That's certainly a recipe for punitive damages. This ruling confirms what we already tell our clients when faced with restrictive covenant issues. There is no substitute for fair competition. Stay away from unfair competition and you'll likely stay away from these types of lawsuits. Next, when hiring an employee, it's important for the employer to do its due diligence to make sure that the employee that it's hiring either does not have a restrictive covenant, or if they are bound by a valid restrictive covenant, that the employer takes steps to make sure that employee does not violate those contractual obligations. We even encourage the employer to be proactive, advising the employee in writing not to bring with him or her any confidential information or other confidential knowledge from their former employer, that the new employer has no intention to use that information in the business. Taking steps like that will go a long way to ensure that our clients don't get involved in these types of cases.